Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk Bloomington Normal. Have you got your coffee? Call me woke because I am awake. Call me DEI. Call me DEI because I am woke. We've got coffee here and your results from last night's election. Yes, if you didn't tune in to the election show, that is archived for you on YouTube. Just type it in your search bar, Conservative Cat Show, and you'll be able to find it there. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the election results here, real quick. Pretty much 6 to 7, it's going to be local election results. So thank you for choosing us as your election headquarters, by the way. The mayor in Normal, okay, that is going to Chris Coos. It looks like it, okay. Now, these are unofficial results. We don't know if things are going to trickle in, a couple of weeks after the election, because that's how we do things here in the state of Illinois. We don't have something called an election day. We have election weeks, 40-day election, and then even after the election day, 2 weeks after that, you gotta count the mail-in ballots that trickle in. Okay, so Mayor Chris Coos, he secured a 6th term. Okay, and I don't know what's wrong with people. Why the hell would you be voting for somebody 6 different times and expect, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Okay, so, and it boggles my mind because Chris Coos lied straight to your face. Like, there's a video. This should have lost him the election 100%. There's a video out there where he says, I didn't ban e-scooters. He sells e-bikes at his bike shop, okay? Those are permitted in certain areas in Normal. Now, e-scooters specifically, he doesn't sell those at his bike shop. And he was asked about the e-scooter industry, how they had tried to obtain business, or they tried to obtain a framework through the state legislature in the vehicle code to a permit for these e-scooters. And they were shut down by the town of Normal Modern Mobility. We brought you that story here exclusively. If you missed the show, you can go find it on YouTube. But to sum it up, they wanted to make money here. A business wanted to make money here in Normal, and he shut them down. Okay, he and other council members shut this business down. And they ask you to raise the sales taxes, and that would have brought in a ton of revenue, projected revenue. I forget exactly what it was, but they were going to make millions, so therefore we were going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax. Okay, we were going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax through those e-scooters, through this company that wanted to be here, and we were deprived of that as residents of Normal. Okay, there's lots of people who want the e-scooters, and you'd think that the college students would have shown up to vote against that and vote for somebody who was pro e-scooters. You should have made it. I really do think Kathleen should have made that this race about that issue. It hits home with a lot of people, especially business owners, but the college students. I mean, when I was in college, you had to walk. So the walkability on ISU's campus is not great. You had to walk along. I loved the exercise, and I would even run to class sometimes, and I was all right with it. But it would have been cool had I had an e-scooter. I lived off campus in an off-campus apartment because I couldn't afford living in like dorms or on campus. So I lived pretty far away. It would have been pretty cool if e-scooters were permitted. But unfortunately, they aren't. And, the town of Normal, on their website, they say they're not permitted in all areas, sidewalks, roads, in the Constitutional Trail, okay? They're not permitted in the town of Normal. And then Chris Coos tried to gaslight you into believing that they haven't, talked about e-scooters. It's not, we haven't even, done any kind of regulation around e-scooters. It's a myth. It's a rumor, that e-scooters are banned, and that's a total lie. On their very own website, they say that they're not permitted, the town of Normal website. So I don't know. I think that was a perfect issue to run on. It's hard to win because you've got, I'm just going to say it, ignorant doesn't mean that they're terrible people. College students, okay, who vote for people who the Civic Engagement Center tells them to vote for, okay? Civic Engagement Center, we know that's the all-in democracy challenge. They were tabling yesterday, registering kids to vote. The voter turnout, shockingly, in comparison to other years, pretty high for McLean County. It was 25.46% in McLean County and 31% in Bloomington. My jaw dropped too. I was like, what? That's kind of crazy. It's those are pretty high voter turnouts, but not high enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there were more registered voters to come out, I mean, if you are, there's FOID card carriers, people, Republicans who, everybody with a FOID card should be going out and voting. If everybody voted, Republican, people with the FOID card, or voted, right in these nonpartisan issues, or right of center candidates, if they were to come out, I think we would have won. Right? But there's a lot of people who didn't show up. I mean, 25% is 25%. There's a lot of people who didn't show up. So don't be shocked and don't be upset if you didn't go out and go vote, right, about these results that I'm about to give you. So we know Chris Coos, sixth term. So his challengers were Karoline Lorenz and Kimberly Harris. Kimberly Harris had 14% of the vote, less than 14%, and then Karoline Lorenz had 40% of the vote, and Chris Coos won with 46% of the vote. Now there is this whole mail-in ballot situation, so there are ballots that remain to be counted, but Lorenz, she's going to have to, really chip away at that. Coos garnered 3,914 votes, 3,914 votes. Now, that's 470 votes more than Karoline Lorenz. So I don't think that there are going to be 470 mail-in ballots that trickle in, but who knows? These are the unofficial results. Dan Brady won decisively over council member Cody Hendricks and current mayor Mboka Mwilambwe. Dan Brady got 48% of the vote and Cody Hendricks got 33% of the vote. So that's great. And here's the statement from Dan Brady on Facebook. He says, "To the city of Bloomington, thank you for the confidence you have placed in me with your votes. Bloomington is my home, and I truly believe this community is the heart of the state. We deserve leaders who will advocate for the betterment of our great city, a mayor who will tackle the hard issues, and someone who works with everyone in order to ensure the future of Bloomington is bright. I'm ready to get to work as your new mayor." So there were a couple of other races in Bloomington I'll get to here in a second. So he says, "Thank you to my family for being there for me. I couldn't have done this without your love and support. Thank you to those who voted for me to take on this new role. And I feel so strongly about it. To those who didn't vote for me, that I feel so strongly about." Okay, that he feels so strongly about this role. Okay, and then he says, "To those of you who didn't vote for me, I will do my best to serve and represent your families each and every single day. I look forward to our conversations of how we can work together to make Bloomington better. I am humbled by the result of this election and can't wait to get started." So that's Dan Brady's statement. I wanted to read its entirety. After the election, the sales tax referendum that passed, and Chad Burke, he sums it up the best. I'm just going to jump right to what he said on social media. 173 vote difference on the sales tax. Okay, so then he said this on social media: "This community has fundamentally changed its core values. Voting for self-proclaimed socialists," so that's Crystal Label. Chad Burke unsuccessfully ran against the township supervisor, Crystal Label. It was like 60-40, something like that. So Chad Burke, he goes on, he says, "The community has fundamentally changed its values. Voting for self-proclaimed socialist, and then adding sales tax and maintaining the status quo in administrations, which would be, I think he might even be talking about Bloomington. Dan Brady is, it's kind of status quo. He was the state representative for a very long time. But Mboka, he was the current mayor, but I think he's more so talking about Chris Coos here, the status quo in Normal. So in Normal, we have Chris Coos, and he's been mayor since 2003. So I was wrong. I said that he was mayor like as long as I've been alive. Pretty close. Pretty close. I was born in 1999. He's been mayor since 2003. So, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Bloomington Normal. I'll tell you right now, on my Lincoln ballot, I did not have one self-proclaimed socialist. I take that back. I did have Thomas Witt. So the Heartland trustees. Now, these might change, these unofficial results here, because of the mail-in ballot situation. This is really interesting. These might change because it's very, very close. You have Janet Hood, 28% of the vote, Thomas Witt, 21.71% of the vote, Lori Bergner, 28.4% of the vote. So those are the three. Now, you had four people on your ballot. David Seltzer lost Thomas Witt, but with the mail-in ballot situation, he might be able to chip back up. Like I said, these are unofficial votes. So David Seltzer, definitely better than Thomas Witt. Thomas Witt, I couldn't believe. I just looked him up quickly on social media before I went to go vote, right? And it's like, it has a profile, it's Elon, and then he's got the big X through Elon's name, and then he's got a Canadian flag as his profile picture. And then I scrolled down further and I'm like, wait a second, he's shared false information. So he actually shared an altered photo. It was photoshopped. And he was ripping on Elon Musk, saying that he didn't care about American workers or didn't want to invest in American workers. And that's not true. Elon didn't post that. This was an altered photo. And he was fact-checked by USA Today. So that just goes to show you, like, do we really want somebody like that who, sharing verifiably false information on a higher board or higher education board? Okay, this is the board of trustees. So David Seltzer had some pretty strong words to say on social media. We'll get to that here a little bit later. I have to take a quick break, but there's so many more races I got to hit. I didn't even really talk about the sales tax referendum, other than Chad. He summed it up perfectly. I don't know how you sum it up better than this. The community has fundamentally changed its core values. They voted for a self-proclaimed socialist, and adding the sales tax in. If you are upset by this in any kind of way, vote with your feet. That's what I would recommend. If you're upset by that, just vote with your feet. It's getting too much. We are going to get to the tax burden that you're going to have to be paying now here in McLean County, because you're going to get your property tax bill in just a couple of weeks. And you're going to see that your property taxes, District 87 rose those property taxes by 8%. Unit 5 rose those property taxes by 9%. And you're going to feel it. You are going to feel it. The tax burden is going to be heavy. So the overall tax burden, not including income tax, by the way, is about to go up to about 20%. Okay, so tax and spend government officials, very, very happy about this. Okay, they love taxing, they love spending, and they don't like spending on the kids. And I think that the sales tax referendum passed because parents feel guilty. And I know that I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I really don't care. You guys know what the show is all about, and I don't really care to ruffle your feathers. I'm going to do it. You vote for the sales tax hikes and the tax hikes. You did it in 2022, I think it was, with Unit 5, and that was a tax hike. You do it because you feel bad sending the kids to what essentially looks like a prison for 8 hours a day. And you feel bad not being with your children. So therefore, when people ask you to throw money to the kids, you're going to throw money at it. And I know that's probably going to rub you the wrong way, but you're sending your kids to a prison. It looks like a prison. The food looks like prison food. The kids are getting bullied. The kids are having. Does anybody not remember the District 87 brawls, where there were brawls and the kids were beating the the crap out of each other? They're taking the kids' cell phones away because it's gotten so bad, and that's actually a decision I agree with. But I mean, this is like prison. Okay, their rights are going to be taken, or their cell phones are going to be taken away, and their communication with you is going to be taken away. During the day, obviously. So, I mean, this is they're going to have a clinic probably there, and they will never be. They are taking your kids away from you, and you are allowing it to happen, and you feel guilty about it. So when people say throw money at the kids, you know that the school is taking care of their lunches, taking care of their breakfast, taking care of their physical exams and health at this clinic they're talking about doing. And deep down in your gut that they're not actually your kids, and you're going to throw as much money as you want at the school district because you know that you're not taking care of them. For the 8 hours a day that they're there. I'm sorry. I know, ruffling feathers. That's what I do here at Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. I'll be right back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to ruffle a little bit of feathers there. I mean, these are essentially prisons that you're sending your kids to school to, and I know, and I get it. It's hard to pull your kids out. I don't have kids. I don't have the option, but I do know that homeschooling is definitely an affordable option, and people just need to educate themselves on how to do it. And you'd be surprised how much, like, in taxes alone, like it's just so much money that we're giving these school districts. And the only way to really combat this is if you just take them out of the school district, give them no reason to keep tax increasing you. Wow, no way. That's crazy. Cody brought cookies to the election judges. That's a no-no. What? Oh my goodness, that is a big no-no. Please let me know what precinct that was and approximately what time that was. That is insane. You cannot do that. That's electioneering. Okay, and I'll just tell you, I have gone to Lincoln for a couple of elections now. Easy as pie. Never earlier there was the First Presbyterian church polling location, and they were doing the same thing where the voting machines were down and somebody had to put their ballot in the box and they had to lock the box and they were going to count it later. Okay, I have never run into that in Lincoln. I have never had to deal with that ever. There was also a huge, ginormous sign that said no electioneering. Okay. Yeah, and they just perform the elections flawlessly every single time I go. And now I don't know why. I've never really experienced it in McLean County myself, but I constantly get messages like this. Yesterday, I got a message where the voting machines were down that early morning, and he was asked to put his ballot in a box. Okay, in a lock box at the bottom of this like copier machine. It looks like a machine where you tabulate the vote. Tabulator box at Wesley, approximately 7 to 8 a.m. We called HQ on him. That's insane. That's really insane. I've never heard of a candidate doing something like that. That's bold, very bold. Yeah, like I said, at my polling location, big sign that says no electioneering. So yeah, I we'll be getting to the sales tax referendum. I know I probably ruffled a lot of feathers. I probably gotta like downplay that a little bit. People are probably uncomfortable uncomfortable of how I made them feel, but I really don't care at this point. Like that's why you're throwing money at this. It's because you feel guilty. You don't pay for something unless you feel guilty about it, right? And willingly give money unless you have certain types of feelings. They are emoting and they're voting with their emotions, not logic. And that's the only way I could really sum this up. So your property tax burden is insane here in McLean County. Dean Fletcher, he posted a statement and he talks about how, your property taxes are going to go up by 8%. Thank you, District 87, by 9%. Thank you, Unit 5. So you're going to get that property tax bill in the mail. Here's what Dean Fletcher says. Tax and spend government officials are giddy that they can violate criminal election laws and they are confident voters will reward them for it with more and more cash anyways. The only hope for justice is that the sheriff's office in his investigation into the election interference and illegal government coordination with the PAC, with APAC, that is the Yes for Schools PAC, the Yes for McLean County Schools, the investigation, and likely charges will not change the sales tax vote results, but it can punish criminals and deter future law breaking by government officials. So we're going to get to Dean Fletcher's comments. I also want to get to David Selzer. He had some very strong words to say after possibly losing this election. I would say precinct 9. Okay. Well, I appreciate you staying with me here and letting me know. I'm going to bring this to our listeners on the air because that is shocking. I've never heard of that before in my life, where Cody Hendricks allegedly brought cookies to the election judges. It is a big no-no. That's called electioneering. And that doesn't look good. I've never seen a candidate ever do that. Have I seen candidates go in to vote and they, smile and are a little overzealous with the election judges? Yeah. Where they're like nice and like they say, oh, how's your day? And I'm overly nice to my election judges as well because, it's a long day. And you want to be nice to your election judges. I'm not saying that you don't want to be nice to them, but a candidate bringing cookies to an election judge, that's a little outrageous. It'd be a little weird if voters were doing that as well. But a candidate? Yeah, we were all shocked too. Glad that you called HQ on that. Well, this is bizarre. We got a comment. Go ahead, find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Leave a comment or go ahead, text me 309-451-9299. We're going to get to a lot of these election results here in this 6 o'clock hour. I want to get to David Seltzer. He had some strong words to say on social media. His projected loss. I don't want to say he lost yet because he's very, very close. There might be some mail-in ballots that trickle in and, tip this another way to where he would unseat the where he'd unseat Thomas Witt. Okay, so he had some strong words to say on social media. So I'm gonna read his statement. I also want to get to Dean Fletcher. I know I ruffled some of your feathers. I'm sorry, I hate to do that to you this morning. Homeschooling is an option. Private schools are an option. Pod schooling is so cheap. Okay, I know several private schools that have very, very cheap tuitions. Definitely cheaper than the taxes you're paying right now. They raised your property taxes, District 87, by 8%. Unit 5 raised them by 9%. Your overall tax burden is probably going to go up by 20%, and that's not including income tax. So cheers is what Dean Fletcher says in a statement. He says tax and spend government officials are giddy that they can violate criminal election laws and are confident that voters will reward them with more and more cash anyways. Our only hope for justice is the sheriff's office and the investigation into the election interference and illegal government coordination with the PAC. The investigation and likely charges will not change the sales tax vote results, but it can punish the criminals and deter future lawbreaking by government officials. So this is all alleged election interference. There haven't even been charges yet. But he says that, likely it's not going to change the sales tax vote. Dean Fletcher, he's an opponent taxpayer lodged a complaint with the McLean County Sheriff's Office about the alleged election interference, where they are, posting online these videos, or this website asking voters to approve that referendum. I heard people were getting text messages from District 87 asking them to go vote for being careful, with their wording and promoting the sales tax referendum. They were getting texts, a desperate move, by the way. Residents had reported that. And I know I ruffled your feathers, but really, when it comes down to it, you're voting with your emotion. They did the same thing to you with Unit 5 and the tax hike there a couple of years ago. You're voting with your emotion. You don't like to send your kids to school every single day for 8 hours. You know that it's like a prison there. That look at the food, look at the walls, look at the buses. The buses even look like what they transport inmates in. Okay, that these public schools have turned into, and it never used to be like this, but that they've turned into indoctrination camps. That the kids are miserable there, that they're constantly getting bullied, and that they're not exceeding and they're not excelling. Just look at their rates, okay? Look at the reading rate, look at the math, they're not proficient in these areas. I'd imagine parents, not you, but parents, who voted for this, there's some guilt there. When you're sending your kids to places like District 87 where there's straight up brawls. And I'm not talking, little scuffles in the hallway, where a couple kids punch each other. I'm talking brawls and gang type looking violence. Okay. That's what I'm talking about in the halls of District 87. If you don't believe me, we've done story after story, exclusive after exclusive, kids bringing in guns and bags of marijuana in their backpacks. I mean, this is like, it's like a prison. And I know like some people feel guilty about that, and I don't blame you. Okay. And you think that you can't do it, but you can pull them out of there, and don't give these people reason to tax you. If their enrollment goes down to 0, guess what? Your taxes should go down to 0. Okay. Their enrollment has been dropping, yet their administration has been increasing, which doesn't make their school administrators have, ballooned, and their salaries have also ballooned, and their pensions. The money doesn't go to the kids. Okay. And I know you want to throw money at this because you feel guilty about sending your kids to what essentially I'm going to call are prisons. And I know you feel guilty, but like throwing cash at this is not going to make that guilt go away. Okay. It's actually probably going to make you feel more guilty. And they play on that emotion. The school districts, they know exactly what they're doing. Remember a couple of years ago, Unit 5, they were like, well, the kids won't have extracurriculars then. Okay, then the kids don't have extracurriculars then. Guess what? I'm going to go play with my kid in the backyard and we'll play soccer together. You didn't need the soccer team. They don't need the concerts or the band or anything. I'll teach them how to do it. We'll do it right here in my backyard. We'll invite all the neighborhood, and they play on your emotions, like they can offer something your kid that you can't, and you're obligated to fund that. It's just so sickening, and it makes me sick to my stomach. I gotta move on. Otherwise, I'm gonna start losing my morals. I want to talk a little bit about this liberal judge, Wisconsin Supreme Court election. Okay, so Susan Crawford, she beat the conservative judge Brad Schimmel. So she's the liberal judge, and this was a very important election. Elon Musk, actually said that this was going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, emphasizing the impact on the midterms. Now, I'm going to tell you how it impacts the midterms here in just a little bit. The race was a pivotal election. It had, the potential to determine the outcome of 2 U.S. Congress seats due to some possible redistricting. Okay. So we're going to get to this and how it, is impactful for the midterms in 2026. And I'm talking at a federal level, your House seats, your Senate seats, there's redistricting going on, and the Supreme Court is going to be deciding on that redistricting. Okay. And if they make these decisions from a leaning liberal, which is now it is a 4-3, okay, majority the liberals on the Supreme Court, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, likely the liberals are going to redistrict this and allow redistricting to make it to where, some of these House seats flip. Okay, these congressional seats, at least 2 of them will flip in 2026. That just means you got to work way harder. Okay, it's going to make it tough for us to win the midterms. So candidates got to work harder to keep their seats, and then we've got to try to gain seats somewhere else other than Wisconsin. So we're going to get to that story. I do want to get to a few other. David Seltzer, he's a Heartland trustee. He didn't win. David Seltzer. He might, because we still got mail-in ballots, and this was really close. Let me read those percentages again. He could boot out Thomas Witt at 21.71%. But David Seltzer, he's got 21.08%. Okay, so they're both at 21%, and it's very close. So I don't know. We'll have to see how many mail-in ballots come in for David Seltzer. Thomas Witt, definitely left-leaning. Now, Bloomington Ward 1, we've got Benjamin Zimmerman coming in at 43% of the vote, and Jenna Kearns taking it. She was the incumbent with 56% of the vote. Bloomington Ward 9, Roger Bedecker lost 42% of the vote. Abby Scott, 57% of the vote. Dan Brady won the Bloomington mayoral race with 48% of the vote, 47.9% of the vote. Now, I will get to the Normal Township. Crystal Abel, self-proclaimed socialist, 59% of the vote, 60% of the vote, something like that. And Chad Burke, 40% of the vote, okay, with the Normal Township supervisor position. But I want to get to the trustees here on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Cities, 92.9. Oh, I was going to bring this up. I will bring this up on the other side, I swear. Absolutely insane. Good morning. Appreciate it, you being here. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Like I said, there is get much sleep, have a good show. Yeah. Not a ton of sleep. I've got my coffee here. Don't worry there, Tim. Thanks for being here this morning. Yeah, so the election that I was really looking at in my home district, just so that way you guys know I don't live in Bloomington Normal anymore. I lived there for 7 years and I got out, which I'm so happy about. All of the people on my ballot, like even the guy that I don't want to win, I'm just going to be honest with you, I voted for Steve Parrott, or I would have voted for Steve Parrott. He wasn't even in my district, okay? So he's not even in my ward, okay? My ward had Ronna Donahue. I didn't have any contested elections on my ballot except for the Heartland trustees. I had to vote for those guys as well. But we've got Ronna Donahue in my ward, but there's a ward that's contested that's pretty high. It's the neighborhood over, and I really would want Steve Parrott. And at this point, folks, in my life, I found that I think I'm going to start leaving. Like, I vote Christian conservative, and in that order. Okay, you've got to be a Christian, and I just Steve Parrott is that for me. He's a Christian conservative, and I would have voted for him had he been in my ward. And I was looking at that election, and I think it's still too close to call. But I mean, either way, even if his opponent gets in, he's still a nice guy. So I mean, I don't have any self-proclaimed socialists on my ballot. So I mean, there's that. That was such like a refreshing. Like, this is my first local election voting in Lincoln, and it was so refreshing to not see communists on my ballot. I was like, wow, this is nice. Outside the Heartland trustees, to have some decent choice, or decent, like, filling in the bubbles and not feeling sick in my stomach, choosing the lesser evil. Okay. Cody and his cookies. That was just brazen. I was working for EV for November election. Oh, EV? Early voting for the November election. Okay. And Lizzie came downstairs right there at the government center and started politicking right there. Yeah. I'm not shocked by any of that. You guys tell me these things happen. I hadn't seen any of it. I tried to stick around to my poll. I probably went at good time, usually around lunch I'd go and vote in McLean County, but and I would always go to my polling place. I never early voted in McLean County when I was voting there, but yeah, I hear things like this all the time happening. I have never, there's a big sign that says no electioneering, and I've never really Lincoln is a very small town, smaller, I should say, than Bloomington normal. So I've never really even seen anybody when I go to vote. It's usually just me when I'm there, and then I go vote, and then I did have two ladies, and they saw the big sign. They actually commented on it when I went to go vote yesterday, and they commented on it. They said, "What's electioneering?" And the election worker, the election judge, gave a phenomenal response. Asking people for their votes and campaigning, for a specific candidate right there at the poll. And she gave a great response to their question. And to be honest with you, I've never seen signs like that at McLean County polling locations. Perhaps they should get signs, no electioneering, and that would serve as a reminder. A big one with red letters, that would serve as a reminder to some of these people who are a little brazen, like Cody Hendricks and Lizzie Johnson. Good morning, Kat. Election coverage, a great election coverage last night. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. It is archived for you guys if you didn't see it. We are going to get to David Seltzer. He is, I guess he's a little sore. This is pretty, you can feel the angst in this post. He goes, I've run an election. I have run in an election or two, and somehow this does not pass the sniff test. That is what David Seltzer says. He goes, I wonder who I hold accountable. The donors, who clearly knew the maximum donation levels and appear to have approached the GOP to accept their dollars to be directed to an individual. The candidate, who must have known who the real donor was and accepted the laundered money, who they could win in the home stretch. This is interesting because David is not talking about his race. I don't know how this kind of pertains to him. Is it because he wanted the money from the GOP? I don't know. But I don't know how this really pertains to his race. If it at all does. And Kathleen didn't win. So despite all of this, she didn't win. So I don't know what exactly the gripe is here. So we're gonna talk about David Seltzer here next on Conservative Gab. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal, reportedly. Now, you guys can leave comments and everything. This is insane, if true. And I'm not doubting the individual here at all. I would just need to confirm, and they've reported it to HQ. Cody Hendricks brought some cookies in for the election judges at a precinct between 7 and 8 a.m., the precinct number 9, Wesley at between 7 and 8 a.m. Somebody said Cody Hendricks brought in cookies for the election judges at the precinct that she was judging at. Okay, this individual was a judge, and she said that's a no-no. We called HQ on him. We were all shocked that this happened. Somebody else, Jacqueline, she commented, she said, Cody and cookies, eh? That's pretty brazen. I was working early voting in November election, and Lizzie Johnson, I'm assuming the now chair, came right down in the government center and started politicking right there. Okay, I've never seen any of this kind of stuff happen in McLean County. You guys tell me every election cycle. I've never seen it happen at my polling place. And like I said, this was my first year voting in Lincoln elections. It was so nice to not have self-proclaimed socialists on my ballot or communists, like quite literally self-proclaimed. Yes, Crystal Label, self-proclaimed socialist. It's so nice to have candidates like even the guy like, and this is in a different ward. I didn't even vote for the guy. I'd like to see him win. Steve Parrott. He's a Christian conservative. I vote in that order, right? And even if he doesn't win, the other guy's a good guy. So I'm not going to be like overly disappointed. And everybody on I didn't have really a whole lot of contested elections, which I would like to see more of that in Lincoln. More contested races, so democracy or our democratic process can really flourish. Because we're in a constitutional republic. Okay, we're not a democracy, but we have a democratic process, and that's carrying out elections. And I'd like to have a lot of options. More contested races. Now, everybody on my ballot filled in the circles. I didn't feel too bad about it. Okay, so I really enjoyed voting this year. I really did. So it was nice to not see self-proclaimed socialist on my ballot. I'm just going to be honest. Like, it is a feeling that is just, it's like the weight has come off my shoulders. So, and things are just better. I'm just gonna be honest. Water tastes good. Potholes are fine. I mean, you're gonna get some of that in Illinois. But the roads aren't terrible. They're better than Bloomington roads. I'm gonna be honest with you. And the water tastes great. We don't have any drainage problems, sewer problems that I know of, in areas. So, yeah, basic infrastructure. Now, do we have all the kit and caboodles? Like your downtown Bloomington streetscape, your public library renovations. Do we have all that? No, but I'm okay with it. Why? Because my property tax burden is probably a lot lower than McLean County, okay? Which I actually know it is lower because you're paying in property taxes higher than statewide averages. So they said that Cody Hendricks was bringing cookies to the election judges. You can't do that. So anyway, I brought up the Lincoln stuff because there's a big sign every election I voted in. There's a big sign that says no electioneering. Okay, with red letters, and it was so big that actually when I voted, and I rarely see people when I vote because it's a small town, right? Rarely see people when I go to vote. I did see two ladies there while I was voting, and they had asked the election judge what that meant. What's electioneering? And she gave a beautiful response. Hey, this is when you're campaigning or you're advocating for or against a certain candidate here at the polling site, and that kind of stuff. It's not allowed. And beautiful response. So I think maybe that would be something to implement. I've never seen the big no electioneering signs. That might be helpful. So like I said, the sales tax referendum passed. David Seltzer, we're going to get to him. He made a statement on social media, which I found interesting. He seems to have a gripe. He says it doesn't pass the sniff test this election. He goes, I've run an election or two, and somehow this does not pass the sniff test this election. Now, he has slightly lost to Thomas Witt. I'm hoping that he does unseat Thomas Witt because Thomas Witt seems like a dimwit to me, sharing knowingly share like this is false information. USA Today fact checked him. He's sharing altered images on his Facebook page. Thomas Witt. But I really don't understand David's gripe here with Kathleen Lorenz and this laundered money. The pass through, I should say, all legal. Why? Because you're Democrat. From what I can tell, it's all legal. Because your Democrat lawmakers at the state house have made it legal to allow parties to funnel unlimited funds to politicians. Okay, these parties are very, very powerful, even at the local level. McLean County GOP, they're powerful. They can wield a lot of power with this unlimited donation clause in our law. Now, we're going to get to his statement here on the other side. I got to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. He should have never been in. Yeah, I don't know if he was there to vote. We'll have to see. That's very interesting. Maybe he went around to several polling locations and did this. How many polling locations did he bring cookies to? I don't know. It's very strange. I've never seen that before in my life. It's brazen. I'd like that word, brazen. Very bizarre. And he didn't win, which, I mean, the cookies probably weren't that good then. I'm sorry, but I had to poke fun. The cookies probably weren't that good because you didn't win, man. He voted when he brought them. Okay, yeah, so he voted on the day of the election, which, yeah, Jack, she says I highly doubt he did. And didn't cast an early vote ballot. And his partner voted. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've been covering Bloomington Normal News for quite some time. And let's just say I didn't eat them. Good. Good for you. Proud of you. I didn't eat them. They probably weren't that good. Did election judges eat them? Curious. You didn't eat them, but did some election judges eat them? I'd be curious. Not that it really matters, but I mean, it does. I wouldn't have eaten them out of principle. Like, hey, this is wrong. You can't be coming to election judges and trying to. I mean, it gives the appearance of a bribe, right? Hey, maybe stuff some ballot. And I've never run into this, and apparently it happened, yesterday at this polling place where somebody's ballot was stuffed in a box because the tabulator wasn't working. And I suggested, early on the radio program that if that happens, do you just stay in line? I've always told people, just stay in line, stay in line. If that happens where they say that we can't tabulate your votes, and I don't know, they were placed in the church's kitchen, probably somebody ate them. They probably weren't that good. That's probably why he didn't win. I'm just kidding. I love baking, by the way. This is something that I am very, very good at. I've gotten very good. I've actually got homemade banana muffins downstairs right now. I want one so bad. I don't know why I'm hungry. It's probably because I'm tired. Because we did the election show last night. That's archived for you on YouTube. But yeah, I'd imagine Cody's baking skills can't compare to mine. He should have had me make them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so we're going to get to a lot. Oh, I promise you the Supreme Court. I want to get to that story. The Wisconsin Supreme Court. It has to do with redistricting. This is very pivotal for the 2026 race. Or the 2026 election, the midterms. Now, Elon Musk said that this could affect the destiny of humanity. It's a little bit of an exaggeration there, pal. I'm just going to be honest, Elon. Like that's a bit much. Now, it does impact our midterms. Okay. Now we've seen how brazen, I guess I'll use that term, Trump has been in 2025, his 2025 term. He's been pretty brazen, and I'm not too concerned about losing that. I am. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying not to win the 2026 election. With the new voting requirements, with the new laws being crafted at a federal level to ensure there's integrity in our elections, I'm not too worried about the midterms. I am, but I am not at the same time. Also, we've seen the executive orders come out. If we lose the House, if we lose the Senate, I think that Donald Trump still remaining president until 2028 is good news for us because, and I don't know why this happens. It's not just Donald Trump. Joe Biden did it. Barack Obama did it, where they pretty much legislate at the executive level. We need to change that, but and that's the way it is right now. No tax on tips, things like that. I think that was all executive order. He's done so many executive orders. So I'm not too concerned. I am concerned, and we need to win. Especially, after 2028, we'll see who wins. We need the House and Senate. So We're back. Hey, good morning. I appreciate you being here. Real quick, I want to read David Seltzer's statement here on social media. This is interesting. He says, I've run an election or two, and somehow this doesn't pass the sniff test. I wonder who I hold accountable. The donors who clearly knew the maximum donation levels and appear to have approached the GOP to accept their dollars to be directed to an individual. Directed to an individual like that's Kathleen Lorenz, the candidate who must have known the real donor was and accepted the laundered money so they could win in the home stretch, which isn't true because she didn't win, right? Kathleen Lorenz didn't win, so I don't know. This whole statement is kind of bizarre to me. And then there's the GOP, who know it's a nonpartisan election, and they appear to have allowed one of their donors to circumvent election laws to facilitate this donation. All I know for sure is that this does not pass the smell test I know of. And if you're doing this now, what will happen after the elections? The McLean County Republican Party, the donors of Kathleen Lorenz, owe us all an explanation that meets what supports that an explanation that meets and what the law supports. I don't know. Me thinks this will be difficult. I don't know. There's some spelling errors. Like I said, David Seltzer is running for Heartland trustee. Okay, and he lost by a slim margin. He still might unseat Thomas Witt. Like I said, voted for Dave Seltzer actually in Lincoln. So I'd be all right with him unseating Thomas Witt because Thomas Witt seems a bit far for my liking. He has his profile pictures like a Canadian flag, and Elon is X out, and I mean just absolutely ridiculous. And we know he shares out no false information. Now this is interesting because he's commenting on Kathleen Lorenz's race. I don't know why that race really pertains to him. Did he want money from the McLean County GOP and didn't get it? Is that why he's posting this? Not too sure. It's unclear. But like I said, in previous shows here, this money it's passed through like this all the time. Governor J.B. Pritzker has done it with the Illinois Supreme Court justices, where he knows the campaign he signed the law, the 2022 law with the campaign contribution caps. He, $500,000 from his personal account and then $500,000 from his PAC. Okay, so $1 million to each of these Supreme Court justices, Mary Kay O'Brien and Elizabeth Rockford. Okay, so we know that our governor is doing this. Okay, he's circumventing the election laws all the time, and they go right up to the butt of the election laws. Okay, there's no breaking the law here. I really don't see it. Why? Because our own governor does. Everybody does it. The only way we're going to be able to change this is through the state legislature. If they get rid of this law where the political parties can have unlimited donations to candidates, okay? Unlimited funds to candidates. That's the only way we really change that. So, griping about this and saying it's unfair, I just don't get it. It sucks, but this happens all of the time. It's not unusual, and I don't know. I don't see a there, I should say. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be back in just a little bit. Subscribe to the channel while you're here. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Apparently, the cookies, they weren't that great. Cody Hendricks allegedly brought cookies to election workers at a polling location at approximately 7 to 8 p.m. or 7 to 8 a.m. At Precinct 9. There was somebody there who was an election judge and had reported this morning. I guess the cookies weren't that great because guess what? Dan Brady is now your Bloomington mayor. Unofficially, because we don't have election day anymore. We've got like election weeks, 40 days, election, 40-day election. So we have to wait and see if mail-in ballots trickle in. But I don't think that there's going to be, he handedly, decisively won this. Dan Brady, it was like 49% of the vote. So and Cody Hendrick got 33%. So I don't see, him coming back from that. So he won decisively over City Council member Cody Hendricks and Mayor Mboka Mwilambwe with 19% of the vote. I do want to chat a little bit about, the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. This was a big race. Now, I don't know if it's as big as Elon says it is. He says that this is going to determine the destiny of humanity, or that this is going to affect the entire destiny of humanity. I don't think so. Now, it is a big deal because this could sway our midterm elections, and that just means Wisconsin is out for keeping our House seats, okay? Because there's the potential for 2 House seats. This determines the potential for 2 U.S. congressional seats due to possible redistricting, okay? So they're going to be redistricting. Hakeem Jeffries, I want to get to him, the House Minority Leader, brought attention to this race after he said earlier this year that the race was key for Democrats because they are gerrymandered congressional lines right now in Wisconsin, so they're going to redistrict them. And that's actually the gerrymandering, okay? The redistricting that the Democrats want to do. And if those go all the way up to the Supreme Court, if you have a 4-3 liberal favor of the Supreme Court, they're going to rule, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, they're going to obviously rule in favor of the Democrat redistricting. There are 2 Republican, this is what Hakeem Jeffries is talking about here, these 2 Republican districts, and the redistricting lines for those congressional boundaries could change the outcome of the midterms. Okay, now what does this mean going forward? It just means that Wisconsin is out for our House races. We can't depend on those 2 congressional seats in Wisconsin. Okay, so we're going to have to pick up seats elsewhere. That's just what that means, because Susan Crawford, who is this liberal who won against Brad Schimmel, she is bringing the Supreme Court to a 4-3 favorable to liberal judges Supreme Court. So Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Okay, so Elon Musk said that this would affect the entire destiny of humanity. I don't think so. I'm not worried about the midterms, and here's why. Donald Trump has already secured. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out and vote in the midterms, okay, 2026. It just means that I'm not too worried, and I think that ensuring that there's integrity in our elections through the executive orders, through the legislation that is passed, ensuring that non-citizens are not voting in our elections, right? That is all working in our favor in the 2026 election, okay? And I'm not too worried, even if we lose some seats in the House and Senate, which it would suck. But we've already seen Donald Trump kind of legislate from the executive office, which I hate as much as the next guy. But Barack Obama did it. Joe Biden definitely did it. So executive orders are coming out of that office like crazy 2025. So even if we lose a few seats in the House, where it matters, I think that there's going to be executive orders by Donald Trump until 2028. So I'm not too worried. Obviously, I want to keep control, the Republicans to keep control in the House and the Senate. And I think we can do it even without Wisconsin. I think there's other places where we could flip these seats. Now, here's what Musk said on Sunday. He says, quote, "What happens on Tuesday is a vote for which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives. That is why it is so significant. And whichever party controls the House, to a significant degree controls the country, which then steers the course of Western civilization." I think we can pick up these seats elsewhere. And hopefully the Wisconsin Supreme Court does the right thing and keeps the redistricting fair and doesn't, draw out these 2 U.S. congressional seats for these Republicans purposefully, okay, and doesn't uphold a decision to keep these maps. So here's what Elon Musk told an audience in Wisconsin on Sunday, because I feel like this is one of those things that may not seem that it's going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, but I think it will. Uh, I don't know. We'll have to see. We're at where we're at now. So now we have to respond. Republicans have to respond to these results. He says, quote, "We've got to pull a rabbit out of the hat. We've actually got to have a steady stream of rabbits out of the hat, like it's an arc of rabbits flying through the air and landing in the voting booth." So this is what he was telling an audience. I don't know. Elon Musk says some crazy things. Hakeem Jeffries, he also drew attention to this race. He said that there are gerrymandered congressional lines right now, and he's referring to these 2 Republican districts. He says that those are gerrymandered and that the redistricting that they're planning on doing is gerrymandering and cutting those Republicans out. And ultimately, it's going to go up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's going to have to decide if those maps are fair. And those boundaries could change the outcome of the midterm elections. The comments from Jeffrey sparked a strong get out the vote effort from Republicans as well as Democrats. And now the results, there's a couple of other results I want to get to around the country. There was 2 special elections in Florida, and the GOP was able to maintain control over those 2 seats. So that is a win, one of which was more competitive but ended in Republican favor. So that is a win. There was also a referendum on the Wisconsin ballot. So let me look that up really quick. I want to make sure that I give you the accurate information. Okay, so the referendum on the Wisconsin ballot dealt with photo ID. Okay, so this issue passed, requiring photo ID, voter photo ID, in this referendum passed. So that's exciting. That's really exciting. So not too bad. I would say that there's wins. These 2 special elections, the GOP was able to maintain their control over those 2 House seats. And then in Wisconsin, they also passed this referendum requiring photo voter ID. Love it. All right. I want to get to a few other things this morning. If you guys missed the first hour of the show, we did go over your results. Before I transition into a federal story with Karoline Leavitt, I do want to give you those results again. Dan Brady, your projected winner for Bloomington Mayor. Jenna Kearns, Bloomington Ward 1. Abby Scott, Bloomington Ward 9. These are your winners. Sales tax referendum for school districts, that passes with 53% of the vote. And I know I ruffled your feathers more early this morning. And I said, the people who voted for this, parents who are guilty or feel guilty that they're sending their kids to essentially what I would say is a prison for 8 hours a day. Don't believe me? I just posted it on my Facebook page, Conservative Cat. Go check it out. It was a story you did a couple of years ago. The brawls that have been happening. I mean, you go within the walls of District 87, the kids are bullied. The school buses look similar to what they transfer inmates in, right? And then you've got the food and the walls. The parents feel guilty. They want to be with their kids 8 hours or at least some of that during the day. And they feel like they can't because they haven't looked at their finances. And I think that it's totally doable. If you were to just look at it, it actually probably will be pretty comparable. A dual income household, have mom or dad stay home with the kids. It really doesn't matter. But you feel guilty because somebody else is taking care of your kids. Okay, while you're out there busting tail, and I get it. But at the same time, you got to vote reals over feels. Okay, you might feel a certain emotion for the kids that are in the school, and you might feel guilty for sending them there. But throwing money at the school district isn't going to help with that guilt. Okay, sitting down, looking at your financing, making it work, and making it to where your kids get to stay with you. And pulling them out of there, and doing pod teaching, private teaching. Like private school is not as inaffordable as you would think. Okay, you just gotta, if you care about your kids, you do it, because these schools are not excelling. in areas like math, reading. Bullying is really bad in these schools. And if you don't believe me, just go watch some of the videos I just posted on my Facebook page. Okay, anyway, sales tax referendum passed. Now, I wanted to get to Tri-Valley School Board. That seemed like something a lot of people were interested in. Bobby Brown, 18% of the vote. Amy Peitzer, 17% of the vote. Brian Myers, 21% of the votes. Those are your leaders. And then I wanted to get to Heartland trustees, Janet Hood, Thomas Witt. Like I said, that might change. Probably not. I don't know. With the mail-in ballot situation for the next 2 weeks, it's very close to David Seltzer. They both had 21% of the vote. Just Thomas Witt had 21.7% of the vote. So Lori Bergner is also a Heartland trustee. Then you've got the Normal Township. Okay, Crystal Abel, self-proclaimed socialist. So nice to not have a self-proclaimed socialist on my ballot this year. I vote in Lincoln, by the way. I'm sorry, guys. But Crystal Abel, she won with 59% of the vote. Shocking. And if your core values have changed this month, you got to vote with your feet. Okay, because if the core values of the community has changed this month to where they want to vote for a self-proclaimed socialist, then by all means do it. You guys can have your socialist utopia. I'm out. Normal Township trustee is a Democrat sweep. Tanner Starr, Natasha Saeed, Dylan Heil Broad, and Naoka Griffiths. Those are your Normal Township trustees. So those are your results, preliminaries or unofficial results. Like I said, we don't have election day. We have election weeks. So you don't know. But mathematically, the only one that I think could tip maybe, and this is a big if, is the trustees, the Heartland trustees. Okay, let's switch gears up a little bit here. I want to talk about Karoline Leavitt. She's the press secretary. It's astonishing how much the left where they will go in order to defend transnational gang members from being deported. Like, I don't understand why you come to the defense of transnational gang members. It's astonishing, the outrage that they show for deporting these individuals. So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt had to remind the media about the victims who suffer under these radical open border policies, and how these transnational gang members, they're killing, murdering, hurting people who are citizens. Okay, these scumbags are hurting citizens. She had to remind the media of that. So let's take a listen here. Here we go.
Let me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them, allegedly. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. Pressured homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their fraudulent lawsuits. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position and very strongly.
Okay, so the media would love for you to think that they're deporting abuelas, abuelas who are just trying to make ends meet. That couldn't be further from the truth. They are deporting people who are accused of very, very heinous crime. The left is so beholden to their ideology that they end up defending some of the worst scumbags, like known to man. These people are so reprehensible. So the media. This came after The Atlantic. Now, this is a left-leaning organization. a totally left-leaning news outlet. They ran an article and they talked about a deported gang member, and they referred to him as a Maryland dad. So according to the Post Millennial, Atlantic ran a sympathetic piece highlighting the alleged MS-13 gang member who was deported to a prison in El Salvador, characterizing him, the foreign national, as a Maryland dad, and noting that he was deported to the prison due to, quote, an administrative error. In response to the questions on the matter, and the error during a press briefing on Tuesday, Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt told a reporter that the error was merely clerical and said that the error that you're referring to is a clerical error. Now, the administration maintains the position, this is what she said, that this individual was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning because to our country because he's a member of a brutal, ambitious MS-13 gang. Okay, that's what he's the member of. So that's fact number one. Fact number two is that we have credible intelligence, as Karoline Leavitt says, that this individual was involved in human trafficking. Fact number three, the individual was a member and leader of the brutal MS-13 gang. Don't take my word for it. I do want to share with you Karoline Leavitt's response to this whole clerical error mess. So from what I'm gathering, it was an error, okay, because they weren't going to deport this individual, and there was a clerical error that had happened that resulted in his deportation. But okay, he's deported. Now let's talk about it by error, by a clerical error. Okay. Now the question becomes, do we bring him back because we've made this error? And the answer is no. And there's various facts here, several facts surrounding this individual. Take a listen.
Just changing subjects for 1 second. The administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has conceded that there was an error of one Salvadoran national, will there be any reviews conducted? And does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in court last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore. And it is within the president's executive authority and power to deport these heinous individuals from American communities. It is a promise he campaigned on. It is a promise he is keeping. And every single person in this room should be grateful for that, considering especially MS-13 is very prevalent and prominent here in the District of Columbia, in Maryland, and in Virginia. And the president, the attorney general, everyone who has been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
The vice president said he was a convicted member of MS-13. What evidence is there to back that up?
There's a lot of evidence, and the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have that evidence, and I saw it this morning.
Okay, there's evidence that he's a convicted member of MS-13. So discussion over. All right, I got to take a quick break here listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Yeah, just so that way you can indoctrinate them on your own. How is that any of your business, Flick? Children belong to their parents, not you. Yeah, I know. I ruffled a little bit of feathers this morning by saying that parents feel guilty for sending their kids to school for 8 hours a day because these schools are essentially prisons. They're not getting any information. They're not getting anything out of it. Okay, the kids can't read and do math at grade level. Okay, so they're not doing well. Academically, which is what the schools are there to do. Okay, they're not doing well there. Not to mention, I've shared it on my social media page. Go check out the videos. There are brawls, vicious brawls, things that I haven't even seen in the streets of Chicago, okay, going on in District 87, and they have been going on for years. Okay, this wasn't just a fluke. There's reports of bullying all the time. I don't think I need to tell you that, being that you live in the district, being that your kids come home and tell you about it. So these are essentially prisons. You can sit down, you can do it. Okay. Look at your finances. What matters more to you, your kids or money? Okay, that's what it comes down to. And you've chosen money over your children if you continue to send them to these prisons. And a lot of mathematically, you could probably do it where the dual income, women statistically make less than men, and it's not because they're discriminated against. Okay, so don't run off with my words. Statistically, they make less than men. Why? Because men do tougher jobs. Okay, just bottom line, they do jobs that women can't do physically, and those are higher pay a lot of the time. So some of these jobs are higher pay, and uh, they are paid higher than women because they do jobs that women don't want to do. Okay, so when you look at a woman's salary, think of the daycare, think of the taxes, things like that. If we didn't have such high taxes, you'd be able to afford. Okay, now if we get the enrollment down to 0, they can't tax you as much. Okay, so if you were to pull your kids out, we get it down to 0, where these school districts are only serving a small number of children. I'd like to see it completely eliminated and we just go to pod teaching and homeschooling. Okay, and it's all private dollars. I'd love to see that happen. But because bottom line, the taxation model, people aren't going. If something is specialized and personal as teaching children, we're not going to agree on mass education curriculum. We're just not going to. The public school education model, is designed for mass education, and it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work for American culture. It doesn't work. The kids aren't learning about taxation. The kids aren't learning tax strategies. The kids aren't learning how to balance a checkbook. They're not learning accounting. They're not learning and being creative, because it's all designed for mass education, the public schools. Okay, and we don't agree, and we never will agree with that sort of model. Okay, taxpayers will never agree with that sort of model of education. Why? Because it doesn't work. Okay, I went to school with somebody who couldn't read. Okay, and I went to school with somebody who couldn't read in college. She was a sophomore in college. Okay, if that's any indication that public education does not work, I don't know what is. If that's not, then I don't know what is. She was a sophomore, and it was a journalism school, and she was going for journalism, and she had gotten to a point where she couldn't read, and she was in journalism school, and she was a sophomore in college. Okay, at ISU, public university. That is a testimony to how bad our public education, mass education model is. And the taxpayers are sick of it. We are never going to be satisfied with our tax dollars going to something that does not yield good results. So we should definitely just get rid of the whole public model. But even if we were to just pull out enough kids to where they could not, like, the numbers would be so staggering they can't justify. Okay, enrollment has been dropping slowly, or enough. And the district administrators' salaries have been increasing, by the way, and the administrative bloat has been insane. So this doesn't go towards the teacher. It doesn't go towards. I think that the kids are just or the parents are just guilty. They just feel guilty, and that's why they throw money towards this. Coming up in just a little bit, we will be having a guest on, Ellen Orns. She's with the Pregnancy Resource Center, and that's Living Alternatives. They have locations in Lincoln and Bloomington. So we're going to be bringing her on to talk about a walk, a fundraiser that they're having. They do great work here in the community, and we will be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Coming up, we will have some more election results for you. I want to talk a little bit about Chris Goose. He had won. He's the status quo. Okay, and I love how Chad Burke puts this. I couldn't have summed it up better myself. He says, you voted for a self-proclaimed socialist, You voted to increase your sales tax, your tax burden, and then you voted to maintain the status quo in your administration. So he said the community has fundamentally changed its core values, is what he said. 173 vote difference on the sales tax, by the way. So yeah, that narrowly passed, but 53% of the vote is what they got. The yeses got 53% of the vote. So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to a few other things. Voter turnout, just really quickly, for McLean County, 25%. For Bloomington, it was 31%. So traditionally a little higher. Just so that way you know, mayoral races, it bounces around 20%. The voter turnout, which is extremely low. Like, these are low voter turnouts, but higher than what they have been in the past for mayoral elections. Okay. We're going to get to all of it here on Conservative Cat, but right now, you know her, you love her, Ellen, from the Pregnancy Resource Center. Ellen, thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Kat. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, you're from the Pregnancy Resource Center, Living Alternatives. Before we get into the walk fundraiser that's coming up here shortly, later, not this week, but next week, and before we get into all that, I want to talk about Living Alternatives, who you are, and what your services are, and what you provide to the community.
We are a free medical clinic. We provide pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and APR services. We also provide support services. We have something called HOPE, which stands for Helping Others Parent Through Education. We are here to provide that resource that she's needing when she's facing an unplanned pregnancy. We are a completely non-judgmental place for them to come and just process their situation, figure out what resources they have, and we're just here to help. And our HOPE program is one of those things where they receive education. They also receive material assistance. And they're going to meet with a mentor each week, so they're not alone and they have somebody they can talk to and trust along the way.
Wonderful. Well, tell me a little bit about the pregnancy resource. Tell me about your curbside care events,
Yes.
some of the services that you provide, and what moms get out of it. When they were to walk, if they were to walk through your doors, right?
Right. So like I said, all of our services are free. So when they come in for the medical services, they don't need insurance, nothing like that. We're just there to help. But we have those resources. So through the HOPE program, they're receiving the education, but they get diapers, wipes, clothing, car seats, other baby equipment that they may need. And like you mentioned, next Thursday on the 10th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., we have what's called curbside care. You don't have to be one of our clients to participate. This is here for the community. We want the community to know that we're here to help. We have these resources available. So if you need diapers or wipes, sometimes we throw something else in there, a little goodie of some sort, or we have a prize. I'm not sure what we have planned this time, but they can come in. Actually, you just drive up. There's a phone number to call. They don't even have to get out of their car, and we'll just provide them with some diapers and wipes.
So tell me a little bit, you mentioned it, the walk fundraiser.
Yes.
In order to provide all of these free services, these amazing services, and the team there, they're so friendly, folks. And if you think you might be pregnant, just go in. They're going to help you. They're going to just provide you all kinds of love and shower you with compassion. And they're just the sweetest people. You're met with a smiling face, and it can be tough. It can be tough going in and going into a pregnancy, no matter what your situation is. And it's just nice to have somebody holding your hand the whole way. So your walk fundraiser, how are you able to provide all of these amazing free services, right?
So yes, the community really supports us, and we are incredibly grateful. We don't receive any government funding or anything like that. We are completely supported by individuals in our community, local businesses, churches, just people that are just wanting to be there to help. And so we have a couple different fundraisers that we have throughout the year. And coming up on April 26th, which is the last Saturday of April, we are having what we call our walk. Now, this isn't a protest or anything like that. We stay out of all the politics. We are simply here to help. But we ask people to sign up to be a walker, and then ask friends, families, coworkers to sponsor you as you do a 2-mile walk in support of the Pregnancy Resource Center. Now, sometimes schedules are full, and I totally get that. You don't have to be there on the 26th to sign up and to support us, but you can walk anytime at your own convenience between now and the end of April. It's the honor system, and it's really about creating a support and that kind of thing. And we just come together. We have a fun morning. We have lots of prizes that have been donated by local businesses. We have other incentives. We have t-shirts that we pass out for everybody that's a sponsored walker. It's a fun morning. So I would love to get more people involved in the community and just let them know that we're here for help. If you can't be there and you don't feel like you could sign up to be a walker, you can sponsor our we have a staff page. So the Bloomington staff team, and you can just go to our website, which is bnprcevents.org, and you can either click to sign up as a walker, or you can sponsor a walker at that page.
Wonderful. Well, so I've actually done this before. I didn't walk. I went to the event and I walked around. There's a lot of tabling going on, free t-shirts, and it's a great time for fellowship. Even if you can't walk, you can go and you can fellowship and you can sponsor. Okay. They can't stay afloat without your donations, folks. Okay. And they can't provide the free resources without your donations. So you got to go donate now. Pregnancyresourcecenter.org is where you can go donate as well. But I'm here at the events page, and if you guys want to go check it out, it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You guys can see it, and you can register. It's real simple. Dust off your walking shoes. Mark your calendars. This year's walk, April 26th, 2025. It's going to be a fun event for the whole family. So take the kids out, and because, what's the benefit of maybe taking kids out to walk for the Pregnancy Resource Center? What did kids kind of learn maybe from this walk?
I think it's a great thing to see, to always give back. We are here to help women in their time of need. And so they see their parents supporting something that is as important as what we are doing. I know personally, I started off as a walker, and all my kids were in strollers, and we were doing the walk together. So they still come. They come out now, and they're in college, but they come and they help and they clean up after the walk, and they still support what we're doing. So I think seeing that legacy of giving back to the community, supporting something that you feel is strong about being there for women with those unplanned pregnancies and supporting them in a respectful way is just vitally important.
And, I think like even, when I was growing up, my dad, he was always, respect your mom, and, instilled in my brother and I, we were twins, this deep respect for women, and not only do you provide services for women, though, you also provide services for men. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So we have a couple of ways that we help men. We have a new program, just like I was talking about with the Hope program. We have a new program. It's called Hope for Men. And, sometimes they're like, I'm not sure that I want to be a father. It's scary. Even if they're excited to be a new dad, it's scary. So we are there. We have men mentoring men along the way to support them as they step into that fatherhood decision. And then we also have what we call Deeper Still. It's just post-abortion support. So whether it is a woman that made that decision to have an abortion, or a man that supported it, encouraged it, whatever the situation, they have past trauma from that too. And like I said, we are completely non-judgmental, and we are simply here to help. So whether you are facing an unplanned pregnancy and you're trying to figure out what to do, or you're on the other side of that decision and you would like somebody to talk to, we are here for you. And we just want to help.
Real quick before we go, I do want to ask you, have you come under fire? I know that there was a lot of legislative battles, court battles that the Pregnancy Resource Center were in. You're doing such important work. Well, have you faced any kind of scrutiny for the work that you do?
Well, thankfully, we are really supported in our community. So when some of those decisions have come down in the past, we haven't been adversely affected. We've actually gotten encouraging calls, making sure that, the building's safe and all those things are happening. And so we've had that good encouragement. And we just continue to trust that, when we do what we do with integrity, and follow procedure just like any other medical clinic would do, and do the right thing, that it'll take care of itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for joining me here this morning. And real quick, tell us more about this walk, how we can find out more about the walk fundraiser, and then also the Curbside Care event, if you could tell me about those two events coming up.
Absolutely. So Curbside Care is on April 10th from 12 noon to 2:00 p.m. Just come to the center at 127 North Williamsburg Drive in Bloomington. You just pull up to the front of the building. There'll be a number to call, and we'll come out and help you out with whatever you're needing. And then our walk is on April 26th. It's at the Christ Church there on Linden Street, that big white church with the steeple. It's right there by the trail, so you'll be able to walk on the trail that morning, hoping that the weather will be good for us. But you can go to our event page. It is bnprcevents.org. You can click to register to sign up as a walker, or you can sponsor a walker at that same page. And we would love to have you come out. We had great prizes, some very generous donors from local businesses. So you get door prize tickets, so you can choose what prize you want to go to. We have other incentives based on how much you raise individually, and we would just love to have you come out.
Wonderful. Well, you have a blessed rest of your day, Ellen, and thank you so much for joining the program.
Thanks, you too. Have a good day.
All right, folks, we're going to be right back talking a little bit more about the local election results, and I've got some more news ahead, so you won't want to go anywhere. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat City's 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you being here. Find me on the YouTube stream, Rumble, Facebook. I'm live. Election results from last night. We're going to pour over those. I do want to talk a little bit about the Wisconsin results. We had a win. Okay. We had a big win with this referendum to allow for voter ID. Okay, so photo ID in order to participate at the polls. This is a big win, and the media is going to try to tell you that MAGA lost, and don't let them lie. Donald Trump and MAGA had a huge victory in Wisconsin last night. Yes, Judge Susan Crawford defeated the candidate, Brad Scheimel, but we know that this is a win with the voter ID. So we're going to get to that now. First, I do want to tell you there is a wind advisory. So it's going to be really windy today, and expect some severe thunderstorms later this morning and into the afternoon. Wind, tornadoes, hail possible. Look out for damaging winds and large hail. Stay aware and be prepared. Be prepared with City's 92.9, your severe weather center, brought to you by Midwest Equipment. So I do want to chat a little bit about Wisconsin and the wins. But I've got to take a quick break. We're going to talk about Wisconsin and the win. Don't let the media lie to you. There was a huge victory in Wisconsin last night, and I don't want to sleep on that. So we're going to be right back with that next on Conservative Cat. Yes, big wins. Don't let the media lie. Last night, there were special elections in Wisconsin and Florida. And as usual, during off-election special elections, a lazy, easily bored media attempts to find meaning in it. Okay, so they're going to attempt to find meaning in Susan Crawford getting the Supreme Court seat. Okay, that usually means that the results were really... that usually means if the results were bad for the GOP, they have a major problem. Okay. Or we're good for the GOP, they have a major problem, and they've got to kind of run interference here, okay, the media. So they're going to try to grip onto this Susan Crawford thing, but I really don't think that it's that big of a deal, okay? And I think Elon Musk is quiet down there a little bit, buddy, okay? And you guys know I'm not a big Elon Musk fan to begin with. I like what he's doing with Doge. I think that he's an asset, but I'm not a fan of his 1 foot in Christianity, 1 foot out kind of deal, where cultural Christian is what he describes himself as, and it's weird to me, bizarre. But anyway, so they attempt to find meaning in this, and it's usually because the results are good for the GOP. That's when the media starts to lose their mind, and they start to say, MAGA had a terrible night, MAGA had a terrible night. If the results were losing the Supreme Court definitely sucks, but that doesn't mean that that was the only thing on the ballot last night, okay? Susan Crawford defeated the candidate, Brad Scheimel. Wisconsin will now redraw their congressional lines, making things more difficult for the GOP to hold the House in 2026. Okay, it's going to be difficult, not impossible, for Wisconsin. And there's other places in the nation where we could probably gain a couple of seats. So it is what it is. It's always going to be difficult if the Trump administration and the Trump-led GOP aren't spending the first 18 months operating as if they knew they were going to lose the House. Then they will have wasted the time. Okay, so they need to be operating as if they think that they're going to lose 2026. Okay, the current House and the current Trump administration, they need to be operating as if they're going to lose those 2026. So, and I think they have been operating as if they think they're going to lose the 2026 with the new voter requirements, proving you are not you are a citizen of the United States and can vote in federal elections. There's been laws passed, or there's been executive orders signed pertaining to voter integrity. And we did win these 2 special elections in Florida. So those are wins. And we increased our seats in Congress 220 to 213. Okay, so we've increased that lead a little bit with those special elections down in Florida. Now we voted in a left-wing lunatic, the voters of Wisconsin did, for the state Supreme Court. We did also enshrine voter ID law into the Constitution. Okay, so this is a huge win. And like I said, I'm not too worried about the gerrymandering. You can come after us and you can redistrict things and you can draw out the Republican congressional seats. That's fine. Because now we have voter ID. Okay, and just so that way we have secure elections and elections that have integrity. I'm totally fine with it. So Wisconsin already requires that voters have a voter ID in order to participate at the polls, but the law has now been elevated to a constitutional amendment. The measure was placed on the ballot by Republican-controlled legislature in an effort to strengthen election security. It also protects the law from potentially being overturned in court when Democrats are in control. Okay, as constitutional amendments have to be approved in 2 legislative sessions by a statewide popular vote. Woo! We did win. We did win in state of Wisconsin. Don't let the media, they're bored. They want to say that the MAGA people lost and that Donald Trump didn't have a victory last night. In Wisconsin, he did. We got this enshrined. Now, remember, Wisconsin already requires, voters have a photo ID in order to participate at the polls. But the law is now enshrined in the Constitution, okay, in Wisconsin. The measure was placed on the ballot by a Republican-controlled legislature in an effort to strengthen election integrity and security. It protects the law from potentially being overturned in court when the Democrats are in control, as a constitutional amendment will have to be approved, or has to be approved in 2 legislative sessions and by a statewide popular vote. Okay, so it's stronger now, this referendum for voter ID. Okay, I know Wisconsin, they voted in a lunatic for the state Supreme Court, and this whole gerrymandering thing is going to be harder for 2026 to hold on to some House seats. Of course, it's going to be difficult. It was difficult for Donald Trump to become president. Okay, it's going to be difficult. He got shot at. Okay, so of course it's going to be difficult. Now, the Trump-led GOP now and the Trump administration now should be doing everything they can in the next 18-ish months or so. As if they are going to lose the House in 2026. They should be operating as if they think that they're going to lose the House in 2026. So they should be making sure the voter requirements and making sure non-citizens are not voting in federal elections and making sure our elections are secure. And they're doing that. Trump's executive order, right? He's ensured protections in our elections and security in our elections. So we also had big wins. The 2 special races, 2 Florida special races. We increased our seats in Congress 220 to 213. We won those in Florida. Okay, so these are big wins. Now, the media is going to try to tell you that the GOP, they have a major problem. They're going to lose the House in 2026, right? And that's all part of their plan. They want to, they get bored, they get lazy, and they're trying to make meaning out of these, tiny little, like this radical left is getting on the Supreme Court as if this is like that big of a deal. I don't think it really is. And here's what I'm taking away. People who went to go vote for the Supreme Court didn't flip the ballot over to vote for the Constitution. Okay, all amendments, vice versa, which should tell you what you need to know about off-year special election electorates. Okay, so people who went to vote for Supreme Court didn't flip over the ballot. And because there was a back, okay, they went to go vote, for the Supreme Court justice, the radical leftist, and they didn't flip over the back. Okay, this is what I'm taking away from this election, and they didn't vote the amendment. But it won. So radical progressives also, people who voted for the state Supreme Court justice, the Susan Crawford, they also voted to enshrine voter IDs into the Constitution. So Democrats in the media, they'll tell you that, oh, voter ID is racist or whatever, and having to prove that you're a legal citizen, it violates your rights to vote or whatever. Normal people know that doesn't make sense. They want voter ID. They want voter photo ID. They want all of that. Yeah, this is my takeaway from the Wisconsin election. So these are major wins, and I'm excited. I'm excited, and I think that it's going to be great. 2026 is going to be great. We're going to keep our House, keep the Senate. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the consolidated local elections here. Bloomington, Dan Brady, he won this pretty handedly, like 48% of the vote. Cody Hendricks, 33% of the vote. Earlier today, we had reports that Cody Hendrick was, going around to polling locations, and giving cookies out to people, which is insane. Or cookies out to election judges. Kind of brazen. I've never seen a candidate do that before. But Cody Hendricks lost, so maybe the cookies weren't that great. Bloomington Ward 1, Jenna Kearns, 56% of the vote. Abby Scott, 57% of the vote in Ward 9. Sales tax referendum does pass. Can't believe that. That's absolutely insane. Your property tax burden is insane here in McLean County. It's higher than the statewide averages, and you're going to be paying much higher sales tax than most people in Illinois if you live in McLean County. Not to mention, you're going to get your property tax bill here in just a couple of months, and you're going to see that District 87 rose your property taxes by 8%, and Unit 5 rose your property taxes by 9%. So you're going to see all of that. I don't know why you'd vote for more taxes, but whatever. Tri-Valley School Board, you've got Robert Brown, Amy Peitzer, Brian Myers, Heartland trustees, Janet Hood, Thomas Witt, Lori Bergner. And yeah, that's some of your election results. If you want the full show, the full election results, as I was getting them in real time, you guys can find it. It's archived on YouTube. And that's going to wrap our show up for today. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye. I love you. And we'll do it again tomorrow morning. And stay tuned for severe weather coverage and stay safe out there. There could be tornadoes, hail. You never know. So stay alert and stay prepared. I'll see you tomorrow.